1993 was a funny year for Sonic games. Sonic 1 and 2 were massive hits, so Sega needed to do something big to capitalize on the momentum. And let's just say, they did not disappoint. Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine is the first Sonic game to not star Sonic as the main character. In fact, Sonic wasn't anywhere to be found in this game. This was purely Robotnik's game, and it's just a localized version of Puyo Puyo. A pretty solid puzzle game, sure, but really? You're telling me this was their first attempt at a Sonic spin-off starring a different character? Again, it's a good game, but I feel like there was just so much more that could have been done with a Robotnik-focused game. But that was only the beginning of Sonic games that wouldn't star Sonic as the main character. Shortly after Mean Bean Machine, we had a couple of games starring Sonic's sidekick, Tails, both released exclusively for the Sega Game Gear. The Game Gear was a funky little thing, releasing a shit ton of Sonic games, some being surprisingly really good, and others being the Antichrist. But then we have a couple of games that just kind of fall in the middle, like Tails Adventure for example, or Tails Adventures if you're feeling different. This is a 2D platformer Metroidvania starring Tails. It was the first time the series dabbled in the Metroidvania genre, and in all fairness, it was a respectable first attempt. Right off the bat, things are just very, and I mean very slow. You know it's bad when even Sonic Boom is faster. The controls don't help either. They're super janky. Tails' flight ability is also weird in this game. Instead of how it works in the Genesis games, you have this flight gauge that pops up on the left of the screen that quickly depletes, which is not inherently a bad thing. The bad part comes in with the weird input delay, making flying a garbage mechanic in this game. We also have the item system, which lets you throw things like bombs at enemies. This is actually pretty neat. I like the idea of Tails using projectiles, and it's fairly well implemented here. The game also has a pretty cool aesthetic with its island/volcanic look, and visually, it's damn impressive for the hardware. This looks crazy good for being an 8-bit game. And Sonic is nowhere to be found either, except for this one item that lets you use the spin dash. But does that really count? All things considered, this was a solid attempt at a Tails-focused game, and it would be cool to see another Sonic Metroidvania in the future. But that's not all, we also have Tails Skypatrol, initially being released exclusively in Japan until being re-released globally in Sonic Adventure DX. Yeah, for a while, the rest of the world was spared from this absolute dogshit excuse of a video game. Sonic doesn't appear at all in this game this time around, only receiving a subtle mention in the instruction manual. So there's that. But the game itself is abysmal to play. Remember how I said that Tails Adventure had awful flying? Well, Tails Skypatrol has that too, but it's the entire game. This is a 2D auto-scroller, and for an 8-bit game, that should already be sounding some alarms. But not only that, you are also in constant flight, having to dodge obstacles while moving to the right of the screen. And that wouldn't be so bad if the controls weren't absolute ass. Honestly, I don't even know how to describe it. It's just bad. You also have this boomerang that you can throw at things to interact with, which is a fine idea, I guess. Overall, I guess this is a cool idea for a game, but in execution, man, it's absolutely terrible. But thankfully, Knuckles' standalone adventure is actually pretty damn solid, I can't lie. Knuckles Chaotix is an infamously mediocre and obscure Sonic game released exclusively for the Sega 32X, a weird add-on for the Genesis that absolutely nobody bought. Except for me, of course. This game never saw a re-release, which is a shame since, again, I actually think it's quite decent. We have a handful of different playable characters, including Knuckles, Mighty, Espio, Charmy, and Vector. Yep, this was the game that introduced the Chaotix, but I guess Mighty wasn't good enough to stay in the group. Each of these guys have different abilities, but if you want to actually have fun with the game, go with Charmy. Yes, he's broken as hell, and it kind of feels like cheating, but everyone else just kind of sucks. I guess I should talk about the whole ring tether thing. So this is the main gimmick of the game. You play as two characters at once, and they're bonded together by the ring tether. So what you gotta do is use the elasticity of the tether to gain vertical height and speed, as the level design is very vertical. It's a unique idea for sure, which I can definitely appreciate, but my god, it is so janky. The controls take a lot of time to get used to, but even after getting the hang of that, it still feels awkward to play. I do kinda like the special stages though, and these are actually a pretty good showcase for the hardware. But again, yeah, I do kinda like this game, at least when playing as Charmy. I definitely don't think it's a bad game, but unfortunately not many people have been able to experience this game with it only being released on the 32X. This would have been the perfect game to include in something like Sonic Gems Collection, but it is what it is. Oh, and Sonic does show up in the game's credits, and he has tan legs, oh god. The next character to get his own standalone game was Shadow, with Shadow the Hedgehog, released in 2005. Oh man. Yeah, this is the game where Shadow has a gun, and a child also gets shot. Isn't that so badass and cool? This game is embarrassingly bad. It's just laughable. It is impossible to take the story of this game seriously, even though the game desperately wants you to. It's overly edgy for no reason other than to make this game seem like a more mature game compared to other Sonic games. And you know what? I would let all of this slide if the game actually didn't suck to play. Ironically, the guns are the only fun aspect of this game to me. It's kind of satisfying shooting up hordes of enemies, but when it comes to the rest of the game, yeah, it's not the best. The controls feel like Sonic Heroes, but somehow more slippery. Don't know how that's even possible, but they made it happen. The levels are partially good. There are a couple that I really dig, such as this one Space Colony Arc level, where you ride on the back of a Doom Dragon thing. This is so badass. But then everything goes to shit when you get to the progression of the game. Why is it so convoluted? So how it works is that when you play a level, you have one of 3 possible outcomes. You could take the neutral route, which progresses you forward on the map, the hero path, which takes you to the left path, and then the evil path, which brings you to the right path. I actually like the idea of having a choose-your-own-adventure Sonic game, and it's also kinda cool seeing Shadow interact with all of the characters you meet, including Sonic. Yes, is the title even accurate anymore? But the main problem is that to get the true ending of the game, you have to get to the end of the game 10 different times while going on separate routes. And you don't just get to jump to certain levels either. You have to go back and replay levels you've already played just to get to the new ones. It's awful. It would be so much better if you were just able to, like, oh, I don't know, have a level select where you could just easily go back and play missions you missed. Just a thought. Shadow the Hedgehog overall is a D-tier Sonic game. And it's a shame too, because a Sonic Adventure 2 spin-off exploring Shadow's backstory is something that would have been so interesting if the surrounding game was actually good. But thankfully, Shadow got a second chance. Shadow Generations is one of the best Sonic games on the market. Hell, for some people, it may just be the best Sonic game ever released. And I don't blame them. There's virtually nothing wrong with this game. There's nothing here that drastically brings down the game at all. Being an expansion/side game to Sonic Generations, this game explores Shadow's history, having you revisit levels and fighting bosses related to Shadow's past. At least for the most part. I think it's safe to say that the level design is actually the best in the entire franchise. There's so many alternate pathways with hidden collectibles and different opportunities to use the mechanics. Speaking of which, Shadow's abilities in this game are super unique and very fun to mess around with. Chaos Control is the perfect tool for speedrunning, and you have to use it at just the right spots to optimize your time. And then we have the Doom powers. All of them are fantastic, even the Doom Morph. Yes, it did take some time to grow on me, but once I got the hang of it, it became my favorite Doom power. The bosses are also really well designed, and have a ton of cool moments where Shadow just beats the ever-living shit out of them. The main villain of the game, Black Doom, has actually been redeemed. I appreciate his inclusion in this game so much more than in Shadow the Hedgehog. In fact, the writing and characterization as a whole is really well done, and actually allows Shadow to show some genuine emotion, rather than just being an angsty asshole trying to aura farm. Oh, and guess what? On top of all of that, we have a fully open hub world with plenty of collectibles and missions to keep you busy. This is, without a doubt, the best Sonic game that Sonic doesn't appear in. Oh, you gotta be f***ing kidding me. So there you have it. That's every Sonic game without Sonic, I guess. Yes, Sonic does make subtle appearances in a lot of them, but it's still cool seeing how, even in his own series, there are multiple games where Sonic takes a backseat, and other characters get to shine. I just hope there's more to come. I would love to see games starring characters like Knuckles, Amy, Blaze, Not Silver, the Chaotix. There's so much potential there. Anyway, let me know what you all think about these games in the comments down below, and which one's your favorite. But that's all for me. Thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.